All right. Call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to our first meeting of 2026. Let's stand up and start with the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item of business is delegations. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to come up and speak? Ms. Santoro.
Thank you.
Just to go ahead and announce who you are and where you live.
Yep. Ann Santoro here, 11 Rose Lane. I'm here tonight in support of the Board of Finance appointing Olivia Fairchild to the Capital Improvement Plan Committee. That's the SIP committee that you're all familiar with. I believe it's agenda item number 7 on your agendas this evening. Olivia's name was first submitted for consideration to the Board of Selectmen at their December meeting, December 17, and then it was decided to forward her name to you since you will be making that appointment. I understand that she has submitted her letter of interest or email of interest to the board, so I'm hoping that you have received that. I've known Olivia for the past 5 years through our respective public service in town. She is very bright, she's very dedicated, and very delightful to work with. I believe she'll be a thoughtful contributing member to the SIP committee. She is a member of the public and so perfectly fits that category of member of the public that is required for the SIP committee's operation. She's not currently serving on a board or commission in town, but she'd previously served as a member of the Board of Education and also prior to that as an alternate to the Planning Commission. So she very well understands, I think, the town budgeting process. She's been through it, town operations, and many of the financial challenges that the town has. She'll bring a very fresh business perspective, I believe. Her current work is at EB in basically budgeting and procurement, which is she works in the supply chain department there. And I also was very impressed always that she'd received 2 BS degrees from Penn State, one in economics and the other in business management. So I think she'll be a good fit. So I'm hoping that you'll give her due consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public who'd like to come up and speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the December 10th regular meeting of the Board of Finance. The minutes were distributed. Thank you, Kevin. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the December 10th regular Board of Finance meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So 6-0, the motion carries to approve the minutes. On to item number 5 on the agenda, reports. First Selectman, Dan Cunningham.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. Looking forward to a new and fruitful year working with the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. Last night I did address the Board of Education meeting, and my message to them was that we need to work together. In the past, 24-25, the budget increase was 5.95%. In 25-26, it was 6.3%, and those increases are unsustainable. And so we have to find a way to buck that trend, try to turn that around and get it to start coming down, going the other way. It isn't as though this town is without resources. We have a rich budget, and we have to leverage it and use some of the strategic planning concepts that, we are starting to do that. We've been doing it on the capital improvement plan. We also have to try to inject strategic planning ideas into general budget management. So I'm hopeful that we can all work together. I'm confident that we will, and I think we'll be able to deliver an increase that is palatable and acceptable to the public, and that recognizes that we are all doing our very best. So I thank you all for being willing to serve. This isn't easy work, but I think we're going to be able to get it done. So I'm always available to any of the members of the board as we think things through and brainstorm. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Anything else you wanted to cover?
Only that we've got a busy week coming up in the next several weeks. We're scheduling meetings with all the various departments as we go over their budgets, and we will do our best with them to achieve a result that they can accept and we can live with, and we can present to you in a few weeks. That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, next item under reports is our quarterly discussion with representatives from the East Lyme Board of Ed. Come on up.
Hi, Eric Bauman, East Lyme Board of Ed Chair. Thanks for having me. I'll kind of build a little on what Dan talked about. So we've started our budget workshops back in November, and we had a budget workshop in November, then again in December, and then this is our latest budget workshop or budget presentation. So Jeff, our superintendent, gave his update on his budget. So he presents his budget. We then take his feedback, then we as a Board of Ed spend the next 6 weeks or so going through that, asking a lot of questions, digging into details, and I'll give a little more on that, to then provide the Board of Ed budget, which then we will provide to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, for then to give feedback and updates. So that's kind of where we are in the process. What the superintendent presented was a 6.78% budget increase. When you look at what's in that budget, and you talk about the challenges of how do you bring it down, but we'll talk about what we're going to look at. But the challenges are 80% of it is salaries and benefits. There's 8% is utilities. So those are more difficult to impact. There's 8% on tuition and transportation. That's mainly special ed. So when you hear transportation, a lot of it is special ed, not necessarily just the buses bringing students to class. So when you add those up, it's about 95% of our budget. And so it's only about 5% that's semi-flexible. As we've talked about previously, some of the challenges can be on the semi-flexible stuff is, yeah, you can cut supplies, and then what you're doing is you're asking teachers basically are going to Walmart and Target and whatever and going online and buying supplies themselves. So that's kind of what I would say is semi-flexible spend. So given that kind of context, the other thing, and Dan mentioned it, our first selectman, that was really great for our first selectman to come and address our board prior to us going through our process. Because I do think it kind of sets the tone from the top of what the town is thinking about. So it does really help us having that context, and so really appreciate Dan coming there and kind of giving those thoughts, because it really does set us on a path and set us for our discussions and challenges. So now the next step is what is the Board of Finance, what is the Board of Ed asking for additional information on? So some of the areas that we're looking at, just to give you, is transportation. So we're going to do a deep dive on transportation. How many buses, how many bus stops, how many students, and kind of really going into that. We do have in our packet, we did get a first look at that, but we have to probe deeper on that. We do want to look at our software and software licenses. How many different softwares do we have? What are we using? Are they being utilized? Do we have too many? Do we have seat licenses that we're paying for but not really utilizing? So we're going to dig. About 5, 6, 7 years ago, we did go through all the software we had, and we saw that, let's say, Niantic Center is using one software, Lily Bee is using a different one. They're pretty similar, and you're not getting the leveraging scale in your negotiations for seat licenses. So we did that about 5, 6 years ago. So I don't know how much opportunity there is on the consolidation of software, but there could be that we're not utilizing software. So that is something that we're going to look at. We're looking at class sizes. So you guys have seen every presentation. We always give you the elementary school class sizes. The middle school, just so you know, the middle school has been for years operating at a pretty much 20 to 23 students per class across the Kivas. So we have that data. We haven't really pressed on middle school before because it's really been at the level that it should be for a number of years. But the high school is more complicated, and we really haven't had that opportunity to dig into class sizes there. Well, Mr. Kidd, the principal at the high school, did a thorough analysis and provided to us a detailed analysis on the classes, the sections, the number of students and stuff. So that's something we have to spend a lot more time on, but really start to understand class sizes at the high school. So this is the first time we're able to do that, and we are going to spend some time there. We're also talking about and coming up with some efficiency metrics so we can measure how we're doing, and are there efficiencies that we can find? How are we compared to benchmarking, compared to other schools in different areas, because that might tell us where we can, dig a little deeper or look a little more. All of those lead to trying to minimize any impact on our staffing. So that is something. We do have some retirees, and if you know, we also had some one-year positions. So there were some positions that were open. We filled them because we needed to fill them, but we did fill them as one-year positions so we can have a second decision point, which is now, or at the end of this school year, on whether to renew those positions or not. So that's something that we have been a little more strategically doing. Is it's not, if we're not sure if it's a timing, we can hire someone for 1 year. They know right up front it's a one-year contract. It's not a permanent role past that, and then we can evaluate each budget season. So that would be kind of the update on where we are in the budget. The only one small request that I have, which would help us in our agenda planning, is if we know when the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance presentations are going to be, and I'm not looking for an answer right now, but if we can get that would really be helpful, because we're trying to figure our calendar out, and we're running into some challenges of trying to have enough time to have some discussions on budget and some other items. Last year, the budget basically dominated our conversation, and we almost didn't get things done. Things stalled for a while, and I want to make sure we keep moving other topics along in addition to the budget. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. I attended the Board of Ed meeting the other night, and I appreciate also Dan making his proactive statement that you guys can now work with. Maybe one question. The 15% increase in health insurance represents a $1.5 million increase in the overall budget. And I know that you guys chose the high end, but there's a possibility it could be lower.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of the timing of when you're going to know what the actual increase is, please?
And so, if I can take a half a step back. So the town and the Board of Ed were on the same health insurance plans. So we both have 15%. And the importance of aligning is 2 or 3 years ago, we weren't aligned. The state gave us a range of 7 to 9 or whatever the numbers were. Our Board of Ed put 7. Board of selectmen or the town put in 9, it ended up 8 or 9, and then the Board of Ed was like, uh-oh, because it's not all finalized till March, April, or something like that. We will get more information
There's a meeting on Tuesday,
Tuesday, yeah.
and then the state typically finalizes it like April. It used to be May, but last year they gave us the information in early April.
But we get pretty good information at the January
That's-
meeting. So right now, they said 12 to 15. We put in 15 because what we've learned is it's much easier in March or April to say, hey, it's not 15, it's 14. So, and we don't need that money. So it's not a discussion, oh, we want to reallocate it for something else. It's like, no, whatever the number is the number. So 15 goes to 14, it's about 100,000, 90-something thousand would go back. If it's 15 becomes 13, then it's 180, 190,000 that would go back. So it doesn't get finalized till late, but we do get more information in the next few weeks that might tighten the range. But if you remember, I don't remember last year, we got the information that it came down almost right around when deliberations were happening, so whenever that was, like late March, early April. And we just took that right off the top. So it's probably going to be similar timing just for when the state finalizes the number, but it can only, it's very high. From a budget perspective, it can only go, I think it can only go down. They better not go up from that. Yeah.
Thank you. So my second question before we turn it over to the rest of the board to ask you questions is, last year when the Board of Finance voted and came up with a budget for you guys, prior to that there had been a lot of public discussion about if the Board of Finance gives us this big of a cut, we're going to have to cut all these salary resources and stuff like that. So my question is ultimately what happened? So I know you're going to be providing us with a lot of metrics as you guys come here and make your budget presentations, and I certainly welcome that. But I would also like to know what was the final reductions in teachers that you all decided upon last year based on the final budget that we agreed upon?
Yeah, and
not tonight.
But I can actually, I think one context part of that is and Mariana, correct me if I'm wrong, the original number, and then there was, I can't remember, there was deliberations, an original number, and then we had the large town hall thing, whatever, public forum, and then it came down. So the lower number, I think I don't think there's anyone who had a job role that lost their role. We shifted people around. Oh, we did? Okay. There may have been, I don't want to, yeah.
I wasn't asking for an answer.
Yeah, so we can get to that, but I will tell you that when we get to those higher numbers, the original number, we're out of levers. We can look at software license, we can look at transportation. These are all, if we eliminate a bus, it might be $50,000.
I'm just trying to contextualize the public rhetoric versus what actually happened.
Right. If it had been the original number, it would have been a number of positions lost.
Great. Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah. But we will provide that as we go through the process.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead, Rich.
Yes, Eric, thanks for being here tonight. For those one-year positions that were filled this last year, or if they've been filled for multiple years as one-year positions, were those positions created for needs within the curriculum that are beyond 1 year, and that they were just created as one-year positions to be able to eliminate them if needed be?
Yeah, I'll have to look at what each one was, but I'll give an example. Is you might have 22 students or 23, 24 students in a first grade class in Flanders or something. And it's like, well, that's higher than our guidelines, so we bring in 1. And what you find is things mix up each year. So it might not be something you need the following year. And the mix-up can also be that, oh, we can move, this class moves up to 2nd grade, but the kindergarten class is smaller, or the kindergarten in the 1st grade is smaller, so we can reduce it. That 1-year position may not stay as a 1st grade teacher. It can evolve, and it can be where as the class progresses to 2nd grade, the prior 1st grade class the new 1st grade class may not be as big, so there's options. You're going to see, I think Jeff eliminated in his budget two of the 1-year positions already, and I think there's one other one. I think there's one other one. So 2 of the 3 Jeff had already eliminated.
So there were only 3
There were
one-year
three
positions.
1-year positions.
There's 2 1-year positions, there's a retirement that is not being filled. That's-
No. How many
Originally, from last
one-year
year, there
positions
were
were
3
created?
1-year positions. Yeah, Jeff's slides.
Yes,
There were
there's one
3.
in high school.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking elementary only.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So there were 3 1-year positions. Jeff's, in his budget that he's presented, has eliminated 2 of them. There's 1 more that the board will evaluate.
Oh, okay. And just, I remember you have the non-lapsing fund that
Yep.
was created this
Yep.
year,
Yep.
and you still have monies in that fund?
We haven't used any of it. It's 220,000.
230, we have not
230.
transferred any money
Oh, okay.
into it yet.
Okay.
And we're still
Working with it.
having discussions about 2-part. One that you guys want to hear is the kind of the 1 year, the annual limit and the kind of lifetime or cumulative limit that we'll put on. Our finance committee has discussed that, and we just haven't had a chance to present it to the full board. So we have an idea and thoughts on that. And then we have not spent any of it, but there are some things. There's one thing that's coming up that we're going to talk to you about that we think we're going to utilize it for. I just probably shouldn't mention it
okay.
here, but I think you'll be aligned with saying, oh yeah, that makes sense for something that unexpected came up. We need to fund it.
Right.
And it would come from there. The Board of Ed we have to discuss it as Board of Ed too, so
Right.
it hasn't
Right.
made there. But just so you know, it's so there's something.
Oh, okay. And then just a couple other questions. You know, it seems like we've heard over the last several years, you know, that, well, okay, we've been able to reduce our budget because the estimate on the cost of insurance went down. Now, to me, that's not a real good way to try to do budgeting and to correct budgets that are a little bit inflated. I understand that, you know, you've mentioned 95% is already spoken for, and you've got 5% of semi-wiggle room. But I think our traditional ways of doing the budget with the financial pressures that we're feeling now, I think we really need to start thinking out of the box and completely doing different things. That the old way of doing the budget isn't going to work anymore.
Yeah. So we kicked off this year a new committee, and we actually looked at a whole bunch of different ideas, and we kicked off one that is, because here's what has happened historically. You come up with some idea in January, during our November, December, January conversation, and say, hey, we should try this. This would be great. It's like, we can't implement it this year. It's going to take us 18 months to implement. It's like, okay, well, we got to find money. So you kind of put that to the side, and then a year later comes, and you're like, hey, we could do that. Oh, no, it's going to take 18 months. So you never do it because it can't solve your current problem. So we started talking about, okay, what if we looked at 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, what are some things that we can do that we have to kick off meetings today and committee today to start looking at that could impact both academic success and fiscally, what can we kick off today that might take us 2 or 3 years to implement? So we do have a couple of things that I probably don't want to talk too much about right now, but we do have a couple things that we are looking at that would change some of the ways that we do function. Ultimately, you know, if in the current education system, where you have, for argument's sake, a teacher with 20 students, unless something on that changes, you still have one teacher who's salaried benefit with 20 students. So it's how do you optimize that unless there's a bigger change as you start getting into technology and other things. So that,
Right,
but that's,
No, I don't mean to pick on the schools because the town faces the same issues. And our ways of doing budget, we're seeing large increases on the town side too.
Yeah.
And we just have to put our heads together and try to get smart.
yeah, and if there are ideas long-term, obviously if there's short-term ideas that you have, bring them forward, bring them to me, bring them to Jeff. We'll definitely look at anything. But almost more importantly is if there's something that you see 2, 3 years, 4 years, but we need to start thinking about it now because it'll take that long to implement, and just some bigger, broader ideas that then, if you bring the idea to us, then we can kind of get a committee and work on it and see how we can implement it. So very open to ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Rich. Other questions from board members?
Hi.
Hi, Ken.
I don't think we've
No,
met.
nice to meet you.
Can you get closer to the mic, Kim?
Sure. So I was not able to attend Board of Ed. So if any of this was covered there, I apologize. But you mentioned the potential budget increase being weighted very heavily towards salaries. And my understanding is that we do have a collective bargaining unit, a union.
A number of union. We have a
Number of
secretary, teachers, custodian, para, nurse, administrator,
Yeah.
nurses.
So are those
Yeah. And
Are
we got
those
nurse, yeah.
contracts locked in for a number of years?
They're general 3 years, are they always 3 or 4 year
And so-
contracts, and they're all at different stages. So
Okay.
we generally are almost every year, we have one of them to review and negotiate. Obviously, the teachers is the biggest. I think we're in year 2 this year.
Yeah,
This is year 2, so next year's year,
Year one this year.
or year 2.
So,
I think we're year 2 this year, so then next year is locked in. So it would be the 27, 28 school year. That would be,
This is for 25, 26 is year one.
okay, so
The
then
last
it's,
year, June 30, 2028.
so maybe we could
Okay.
start
so it's
with,
28, 29.
so maybe we could start with documentation of all of the union collective bargaining agreement contracts and when their next negotiation period's coming up, when the contract is ending, because you did mention a number of strategic things that you're doing, but those collective bargaining unit contracts are of strategic importance to this town. And please know, I am not against teachers. I'm not against people being paid appropriately. But it needs to be a strategic concern of this town, how those collective bargaining unit agreements are negotiated, and that I'm hoping that there are Board of Finance members or other financial members of the town that are involved in those. So I personally would like to hear more from the Board of Finance, and I can certainly do my best to attend the meetings, but we need to have a strategic plan, we need to have a tactical plan around how we're managing those collective bargaining unit agreements. And I say that based on my years in healthcare, where we've had to deal with a lot of unionization. So that's my
And we do invite,
Personal.
thank you, and we do invite Board of Finance to participate in those meetings, and sometimes do, sometimes don't, but they definitely are invited to be part of those discussions.
Is it possible to include the information about the collective bargaining agreements and their timing and their?
Yeah, I put that as a note. We'll just get you
When
that
we get the
information.
packet? Yeah,
When you get what?
the Board of Ed complete budget packet.
Oh, yeah. We can also provide that ahead of time if you want, so we can pull that together. But yeah, we can put that in the document. I took a note for that.
Great, thanks. Go ahead.
So my second thought around salaries is when you're in a unionized environment, the other piece is management. And perhaps we are all incredibly happy with the school leadership, the administration of our schools, but I do believe it is our responsibility to benchmark our management structure in education against other systems in the state of Connecticut, outside of the state of Connecticut. And if there's no other way to get our salary costs down, then I would recommend that we do something radical with our management structure, because I do support our first selectman in the fact that we cannot continue to have Board of Education year-over-year increases. I don't think anyone is in agreement that we can live with this in perpetuity. So I would say if we cannot, in short order, affect the collective bargaining unit agreements, then the other place where there are large salaries that do not directly influence or impact the education of our children is in that management structure. So I would like to, I'm hoping, if I can request, that the Board of Ed really do a thorough review of the management structure and the costs of our school administration structure.
Yeah. And so there is an administrator's collective bargaining agreement as well. So our principals are part of that. The ones who are not part of that is our superintendent, assistant superintendent, our director of finance, and our director of student services and facilities. So the principal structure is part of the administrative collective bargaining group. And absolutely, we talk about the administration every year, have those discussions. We're generally asked and always provide the list of just tell me every administrator person that you have on your roster, because it's not that many, and you can see what they do. So it's definitely something we can probe. When we have probed, just to give you an idea, you have an assistant principal at the middle school or something. They are sometimes taking on some of the work that then if that position would go away, then it starts falling to the teachers, and it starts taking time away from the teachers, spending time with students. So there's a complexity to it. Definitely open to having the discussions. It was something that was brought up at our meeting yesterday or Monday, to take a look at administration as well. So it is something we'll definitely take a look at. It is complex.
Yeah, and I would say, at least in my experience in my professional career, it is atypical to have any leadership in a union. So I don't know, maybe there becomes another strategic point where we try to have some campaigns to de-unionize.
You can, if you want to start, you want to have a friendly conversation, I'm happy to have one. Starting to talk about de-unionizing on January, whatever we are, 14th. So administrator unions is common throughout the schools. This is not an East Lyme thing.
Okay.
So if you want to start talking de-unionizing, let's have, this is not, I didn't even know I was going to be talking today. If you want to start having those conversations, that's a much more serious conversation. And that I'll pause there. So
Well-
if you want to go down that path, I'm happy to have those conversations, but that is a different conversation.
Well, somewhere we have to have some conversation when you're telling us that there's a 6.7% increase
That's
proposed
what
for the
that's what
budget.
Jeff, that's what our superintendent presented. That
and-
doesn't mean that's what we're bringing to you.
And 80% of that, you
Yeah.
said, I believe,
Yeah,
is
salaries and benefits.
So somewhere, like, that is the lion's share, I think, of any organization is
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
payroll,
yeah,
right? So I'm just hoping that the Board of Ed is looking at all of these things. And we have to do something for the long-term future because the trend is not sustainable, as Dan said. So that is my concern. And then my last thing that I was going to say, I have great appreciation, that there is work being done regarding, I'll say, non-salary expenses. And you did comment about, cutting supplies isn't where it's at. But from my standpoint, again, in my career experience, it would be very common to hold administrators, I'm not going to put labels on it, administrators responsible for anywhere between 3 to 5% reductions in non-salary expenses on an annual basis. So that we're doing things to offset and balancing the budget with the salary increases that may be tied into a collective bargaining agreements. So I appreciate it's hard work, but administrators are paid to do that hard work.
It's not hard work. That's not hard work to do and just say cut 3 to 5%. It's what the implications are of that. So what the implications are right now is teachers buy supplies, or PTAs are providing supplies, or we now have a new education foundation that has provided supplies. We can tell them to cut supplies, and they're going to have to buy it themselves. They're going to go and buy it themselves. So
I'm sorry, but there's many things besides supplies, and I know we have to move on with our
Well,
agenda,
I
but
do think we got to
yeah,
move on,
that's
yes.
fine.
Are you,
I'm all set.
Barry?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, really fast, thanks. Yeah, go.
Okay, go. Okay. Thanks for the presentation, Eric.
Sure.
Very comprehensive, good information here. Just a couple of questions on, one of the things that I don't have the information on is the student census. Is the student census in the schools going up or down?
it's pretty over the next, so we had, I can't remember the community, the firm that came in and did like a 10-year look at what our school our total students would be for the next 10 years. We're at like 24 and change. We were, and it was only, and that study was done a few years ago, it was like 30, 40 students off or something like that. So it's pretty good. And the 10-year has us pretty flat. Well, but we do see some bubbles, right? So you see our high school is in a downward, so we're at under 900 students. We're 880, 890 students in the high school right now, which is down, but I think the middle school is actually a little higher, and then elementary might be a little lower. So as you look, we can have some little waves depending on the year, even within a given year. But I would say it's relatively flat, but I do think over the 5 years it's down, definitely down at the high school.
By approximately how much at the high schools?
I just asked Jeff today he has a slide that shows staffing over the past 5 years, and I think that was included. Was it included? It was included in our deck. I don't know. Okay, it was included in our deck. Past 5 years of staffing by level, and I asked if he can overlay the number of students for those 5 years so we can see students for versus staffing, right? So if students went down 10%, you'd kind of think that staffing should go directionally in that same, might not be exactly, but you should see them trending in a similar fashion. So I asked for that. I don't have it in front of me. I asked for that today.
Is it possible for you to send us a listing of the student census by year, or maybe a summary of that report so we can see the census?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My second question is then on, I understand
Just
salary
just to
increases.
firm that up, do you want to see, let's say, over 5 years?
I just want to see where the census has, where it's been
Total
and
students, or do you
where
want to
it's
see
going.
it broken by, high school, middle school, elementary?
Easiest for you to give us.
What you guys showed us the other night that was just not contained in the slide deck that we were given did contain that breakdown by
Yeah.
middle school.
Because I'm really more interested in the, the budget increase and the student increase.
Yep, okay.
The third item you have here, I understand the salary increases and the employee benefits increases, all other increases. Can you give us some idea of what those other increases are?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Mariana Stevens is our Director of Finance, so she may, if
Yeah.
you're asking some detail,
Yeah, so some of the other increases are our transportation contract is a 7.55% increase for the next 5 years. This is the first year of the 25-26 is the first year of the contract. I know it sounds like a lot, 7.55, but for some of you that were there at the meeting, comparably speaking, we did CASBO, our organization does surveys. Our daily rate is very, very competitive compared to other districts. So and initially it was like a 15% increase when we first initially had started negotiations with them.
And we did,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
digress a second on transportation, we did, when our contract was coming up, we did talk to a couple surrounding towns to see if we could scale and kind of go with a single vendor. But then what ended up happening is our vendor, so then we would have open it up, our vendor offered us a number that, it sounds high, it was actually a very good number versus what we were seeing other towns, so we ended up not going and taking scale to try to push negotiations to go to a single vendor. So just so that is something we did look at.
A lot of the questions that I think you're getting right now were shown publicly the other night. And so I would encourage any board member to either go to the Board of Ed meetings when they discuss budget or follow up on the information that is shared publicly. So
Yeah, in the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
and we can, if not
Can you
everyone
send us
got it, we
that
can
then?
certainly, we can
Just
certainly send it
what
to you,
I'm
because I
particularly
have,
interested in the other items.
sure, all the other budget drivers are in
Thinking-
there,
See,
absolutely.
it's difficult to basically parse out that you talk about 7% of transportation, but then you take 7% of the 1,2,3,3,7,4,3, and that's like 1/10 of that percent. So, I'm trying to figure out like how,
Sure.
what are the big drivers?
Sure.
What are the
Yeah.
big drivers of all those other increases?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
oh,
two slides.
yeah,
right
there's
in-
two slides
there's two
that-
slides that
Okay,
show
will you
it.
send this to us?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right in the
Another
slide.
question
It was
I
not
have
intended
then.
to be a
I
deep
hate
dive
to-
into the Board of Education budget. It was really just a brief quarterly check-in, and we will get all of those
Okay,
details.
right. I'm just trying to understand. Okay, so that's my, you mentioned metrics, and I've been going through the other town budget requests and other things, and there's some other agencies like the library, the senior center provides an outstanding list of when the town gives them money, here's what the town gets in return for it. And it's hard to go through the Board of Ed budget and find out what is it that we're getting in return on the investment of $65 million for the,
Yep.
so the metrics you're thinking about, I know you don't have them pinned down right now, but what are the type of metrics, just very generally, that you're looking at?
Yeah.
And-
So one is, and you're going to see, we have an ROI 2x2 matrix that takes surrounding towns or our DIRG, which is a district resource group. Is that what DIRG stands for? District reference group. So it takes towns that are similar demographics and kind of groups them together. So we compare our accountability index, I think that's what they now call it, something like that, to our cost, and then you can compare to other towns, and you want to be lower right, which means low cost, high achievement.
That's outcomes and metrics in terms of costs. Outcomes in terms of what we're getting for the service that you provide. What's happening with student growth? You know, what type of metrics are, when we look at the library, they will give us metrics in terms of what is coming back in terms of the number of books they have, how they circulate, and they can get it back. So we know the library is here to serve people. And
Yep.
we're getting metrics from the library, we're getting metrics from the senior center about what's happening to the taxpayers of East Lyme from the money we're getting. What's that, and what's
So,
happening?
so like standardized testing, is that what you want to see, how we're doing from a standardized testing
There's
perspective?
a lot of things out there that you can do on that in terms of what's happening. For example, you mentioned the Ed Start Index, Ed Smart Index. There's a growth index there. Our town is behind on the Every Student Succeeds Act, benchmarks on that. How is that kind of metric leading into your discussions of your budget? You know, I mean, things like that. What's happening in terms of what we're getting for the service that you're providing?
Yeah, I mean, I know
Those
you
metrics,
understand
what are those
that some of those
metrics
metrics that you have to look is long-term versus short-term metrics. So looking at an annual budget doesn't always, and trying to see what the impact is on some of the growth, I mean, you have to look at that over time, right?
Look at
And
the
see
Ed Smart
how.
Index is marked down year by year, but I'm not here to tell you what metrics you use. I'm just interested in your thinking on what are the type of metrics that you want to give back to us to show us what we're getting as a return on the investment we're making in education.
Sure. We'll provide what we can. We'll go through. I'm happy to do. I mean, Scott, I'm sorry. This is not. This is going to a level. If we're going to do, I don't want to, public meeting, but I don't want to come here. I was prepared to sit in the audience. You mentioned to give an update. I gave an update. I'm not expecting a finance review. I'm not prepared for that. I'm not prepared for these questions. So to be fair, look, I'm happy to come here and talk anytime. I am happy to have these conversations, but also be respectful. As we just started our budget process. We just got Jeff's budget. We are going through the next steps. If there are things you want to see, I'm happy to provide them. I'm happy to come here and answer questions. But
Let me rephrase my question then. So you do not have to give me those metrics. My request is, as you move forward in the budget process, could you consider including metrics that relate to the outcomes of the services that you're providing? So you don't have to tell me what those are, but it's a request I'm making to you. Could you include that as one of your metrics?
we'll look at the metrics that we find as important and to share them if there's something specific that you're looking at that you think would be really helpful for us to do. I mean, you look at this stuff for your whole life, and if there's things, let us know. As I said with the other thing, in terms of long-term ideas, if there's certain metrics that you think, hey, this is one that really is one that hits the spot, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Reach out to me, let me know what that is, and we can see if we can incorporate it. But if you have some ideas, happy for it. Otherwise, we have our ideas. So
I think I'm going to move us on. So Eric, I just want to thank you for being here. I know that this was more than you anticipated, and I appreciate you. I know you have plans tonight, and I want to be respectful of your plans to get out of here. So as you know, we set this up a few months ago, maybe in October, November meeting, I can't remember which, where you guys would come in periodically.
Yep.
And so that is what tonight's all about.
Yep.
And I think, what you're probably experiencing is our zeal to do our job right and just to make sure that we understand everything.
and we're happy to
I know a
come
lot
every
was
month.
coming
I'm
from you.
happy to come every month, and I'm happy that this conversation and stuff is really important because it's good to hear what's on your mind and collaborate and go through. Happy to do it. If you, in advance, the biggest thing is if you have some ideas of things that are on your mind and you could let us know 24 hours in advance, not to it, and just give it.
We can try to do that.
Then we're a little more prepared for, okay, here's where they want to dig into the conversation, then we can be prepared for that conversation.
I had not anticipated the depth of the questions that you're getting either, so I appreciate you endeavoring to answer them, using just your memory.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, and thank you to the board members for your enthusiasm for it in this process, because I think that the more enthusiasm we have, the better we can make this ultimate budget be for the whole town. Okay?
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
so much.
everyone.
I'm gonna move us on. Kevin, I think you're up next. Board of Finance Director report.
Stop saying that email. Okay. Before you guys were going to leave, I have your schedule. I printed the schedules out. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your. So I just have the Board of Finance schedule, the overall schedule. I'll get you the Board of Selectmen. Okay. Okay. Thanks for any changes. That guys.
Thank you for sharing that, Kevin.
I think it'll be a comment. So I printed the overall budget schedule for the town, and then the second page is the Board of Finance. I'll give you a copy too for your work schedule.
Thank you.
All right. Since I thought I had extra copies. All right, let me give you copies. So if anyone has any questions, everything on the one with the grid is based on the town charter. So that ties into. Yep. All right, here we are. Okay, so the one with the grid is relating back to the town charter. That's really at a high level of when there's due dates, and those are really what we have to abide by. The second schedule is just my proposed schedule using last year's meetings. If anyone has any suggestions, make changes, or want to streamline this, let me know. We can work on that. We still have some time. The Board of Selectmen will hand off the budget to the Board of Finance on March 11th. So we do have a little bit of time before the Board of Finance gets the involved in the budget process.
There's a lot of dates here, and I don't expect us to go through these dates and know our own schedules tonight. But what I would appreciate the board members doing is taking a look at these dates that Kevin is proposing and seeing if there is some, total deal breakers here, or if maybe there's some flexibility. One of the challenges we have is meeting space, because this room is not always available. So bear that in mind. So maybe let's just say that over the next, let's just say 1 week, if all the board members could look at their own schedules against these and email myself and Kevin in case there are some significant changes that we need to try and make. Sound okay?
Yes.
Great.
All right. So again, the rest of the presentation here. So starting off with the budget versus actuals that were emailed to everybody. Let's just hit some high notes here. Interest income. We brought in $918,000 on a $1.2 million budget. Thanks to our friends at the Federal Reserve for not dropping the interest rate on us. I know a lot of other people that are getting mortgages and car loans would rather have it dropped, but for my purposes, if it's high, all our cash is invested, swept into the State of Connecticut Investment Fund. Short name is STIF. And we collect interest on that. Other revenues to note: building permits on a $900,000 budget. As of 12/31, we collected $555,000, which is roughly $1.1 million if we keep the same pace. So that's $200,000 in the green on that one. This was an interesting one, and I think it's maybe a few pieces of property in town were sold. Conveyance tax. We budgeted $375,000. We've already collected $333,000. So that's another great number. Prior year interest and fees for tax collections. We budgeted $150,000. We brought in $120,000. I do know that number is subject to change because we are doing a tax sale this spring. When you do a tax sale, everyone comes in and pays. The following year, there's no interest. Right, because everyone's running here and paid. So that could be the driver for that one. Landfill deposits. On a $245,000 budget, we've brought in $150,000. That's projected to be $50,000 over. Conversely, on tipping fees, something to do with the trash, I'm not quite sure. We've only brought in $122,000 on a $330,000 budget, so we're lagging behind there. So between the landfill and the tipping fees, they're kind of offsetting each other. Overall, on the revenue side of things, we're in pretty good shape. If we just want to jump ahead in my budget, my little packet here, and we want to look at tax collector. The first one says GL 2022 across the top of it, and then there's GL 2023 and 2024. This is grand list, so this is courtesy of the tax collector's office. They're my favorite department in the month of January and July, tax collection season. So we can see 3 years ago, from 7/1 to 12/31/2023, we collected about 63%. Last year, we collected 67.5%, just shy of that. This, the year we're in, we collected under that 67%. So we're trending down from the year prior, but we're trending up over a 3-year period. The reason I bring that up, the numbers we raise for tax collections, one of the budget lines is tax collection rate. For 5 years since COVID, that was at 98.2%. Last year, we ratcheted that up to 99%. So we really need to watch that, because on average, we're collecting between 99.1, 99.2. So there's not much margin of error there. So we really need to keep our eyes on that one. Let's see what else. On the expenditure side of things, legal fees are under pressure. We have 3 unions up for negotiation this year: the police, fire, and dispatch. Those contracts expire June 30, 2026, so in 6 months. Pension retirement, when we received our pension calculation from our actuary, it was higher than what we were anticipating, so that account is also under some pressure, and I anticipate a transfer by the end of the year to cover that. For IT, and then just for the budget purposes, to prep everybody, IT is not going up. IT expenses are not going up the same as everyone else, 3 to 5%. I just had a meeting this morning with the IT director. RAM and memory are in such demand for these data center build-outs. Computers that cost between $1,000 and $1,200 are already costing $1,800, and he's anticipating that price going up even further in July. We've already been members of the CIP committee from last year. Remember, we slashed the computer replacement program in half, and that was a 7-year replacement. And so we kind of kicked the can down the road a little bit. We kicked it to a very bad time, because now the cost of computers is skyrocketing. And we're looking at police server, that's over $300,000. The IT budget is coming in hot, so I just want to prep the boards. That's a big area, a big budget area to watch.
Kevin, question on that. Do we always buy new computers? Can we possibly buy occasionally refurbished computers with this extra memory and RAM?
I believe he does. So the conversation we had today, I'm not a computer wizard, so if anyone insulted by this, he said something about 100 megabytes of RAM in the past would cost him $80. He went and got it quoted the other day. It was $343.
And I don't know enough.
I have no
about
idea what that
that's
meant,
a
but it
new
scared me.
or a refurbished one. But I'm just encouraging you, because I buy refurbished for myself.
Yep.
So
I think they're
work is
no
fine.
avenue is being not exhausted. I think they're looking at everything.
Thanks.
Police overtime is running a little high, but the chief and I know about that. It is being offset by the police union wages, because they're not fully staffed. They have a few officers that they're not staffing, so whatever they have an extra overage and overtime, they'll be able to cover that with wages. Dispatch overtime is also running high. I believe there was a vacancy earlier in the year. We'll do a budget transfer for that as well. Firefighter overtime is the biggest problem in our budget. We have 2 firemen on military leave. We have another fireman that is on workers' comp. When you have 12 firemen and 3 of them are out, we're right off the bat 25% down. We don't have a minimum manning clause in the contract, but you really need 4 firemen to operate 2 stations safely, 2 and 2. So when 3 of the 12 firemen are out, you're running 3 shifts of 4. Every shift you're baking in 24 hours of time and a half, And then don't forget on Saturdays, it's double time, right? So of the when we have 4 firemen on a Saturday, you're paying for 8 firemen. So that's a big budget driver. I'm anticipating that's going to be 300,000 over. Of the 300,000 overage, 200,000 can come from, between 175 and 200,000 can come from part-time firefighter wages. From what Chief Bundy is saying, there are no part-time firefighters that are on the schedule. I think we have 1 or 2. So that line is severely, under budget. I think that's a $220,000 budget line item. We spent $13,000 so far. So I'm hoping we can have some significant savings there to offset that firefighter overtime. One item that is not over budget yet, but just with the cost of everything going crazy, the firefighter repairs and maintenance account, I think has less than $10,000 in it. It's only a $45,000 account. Reason I bring that up, we just got a quote for refurbishment of ladder 15. That is the Niantic Center ladder. I think it's from 2005, so it's 20 years old. We're looking to refurbish it instead of replace it. The refurbishment $600,000, replacing was over $2.5 million. So we're hoping we can extend the useful life of that by 15 years by, spending $600,000 on that refurbishment. But the reason I bring that up, when you have $10,000 left between now and June 30 to repair fire trucks, if one of those fire trucks goes offline, that is going to be a big hit. I don't imagine $600,000 hit, but last time we fixed a fire truck it was $40,000. So just keep that in mind. ACO overtime is also running a little high, but that's a $12,000 account, so it's not terrible. Vehicle maintenance. Joe Bergaw, the Public Works Director, will always tell you that account is always under pressure as the fleet ages. The wear and tear from the police road jobs. We have added road job specific police cars to the fleet to offset wear and tear on the regular, the cars you see. That should help. And then lastly, Park and Rec materials account. This is I think a $50,000 or $60,000 account that is running high. It is cyclical, right? Because during winter months there's not much materials being bought for the fields and things. But that's just something to keep in mind when the fields open up in the springtime. What damage was caused over the winter, things like that. Okay, so any questions on the operating expenditure budget, the revenue budget? All right, next up, the cannabis tax report. Just flip through here. I have 2 handouts for that. The one that this is landscape, right? The landscape report. That's what we've currently brought in so far. So we've brought in $41,423. The report that is portrait is my projection through year end. I'm projecting by year end we will have about $74,000 in this account based on the last couple months' collections. It's pretty consistent in that 155 to 160 range. So about $40,000 a week in recreational cannabis tax. I think it was at the last board meeting, and a couple of the public spoke about the use of the cannabis funds. That is something the First Selectman and I are exploring, because we did budget. We have approved $25,000 of projects, about $75,000 left. That is about $50,000 left in that fund for that. All right, let me just go through my list here. General topic. Cannabis, tax collector, we already did. And then lastly, fund balance. It hasn't changed, but I just present it every month just so the board knows. Oh, and I do have one more fun little thing. So right now, projections, if we do spend the $1 million, if we fully expend the expenditure side of the budget and we need all the revenues, we have to use that $1 million use of fund balance. That'll drop us to under the 17% fund balance target, just so everyone knows. We went into the year with an 18.6% fund balance target. By using that $1 million, if we have to use that $1 million, we'll be under that 17% threshold. Do I envision using the full $1 million? Not right now. I mean, we're already at $900,000 for our interest income. If that comes in at 1.5 through the rest of the year, that's $300,000 right there in itself. The building permit is looking good. Tax collections are looking good. I think on the revenue side of things, our budget is in really good shape. All right, and then lastly, I just wanted to show some things that the Finance Department is working on, and I'll credit the Deputy Finance Director, Mitch, for this. JP Morgan, we instituted P-cards during the fiscal 2023 year. So if everyone has this, just a quick little P-card statement, just want to show what we're doing here. In 2023, we spent approximately $175,000 on purchase cards. Last year, we spent $383,000, and the past year, we've spent $450,000 in these cards. The reason why we like using these cards, vendors get paid right away. They swipe the card. The town also gets a rebate. I think the rebate's either 1.64 or 1.82. It's under 2%, but there's a little rebate the town gets every year on this. So the more we're able to swipe that card, there's a little piece of it comes back to the town at the end of the year. Other things to note, the finance office, in conjunction with our new treasurer, Bob Curry, we went out to RFP for banking services. We interviewed 6 banks last week. We have not awarded any banks the RFP yet. We're still working through that. 2 other things to note. The payroll clerk has resigned and is no longer with the town. We don't quite know in the finance office. We haven't posted the job yet. It might be a good time to do some shuffling now that we have ADP, a new automated payroll system in, so that it's freed up some time. So maybe the payroll position doesn't have to be full-time. Maybe we can merge that with some other duties in the finance office and realize some savings there from all these software packages we kept buying, right? So that's something we'll look for in the budget process. Lastly, just want to let the board know, I know incumbent members, I guess, in 2024, it was discovered when we were implementing ADP that there's pre-tax and post-tax deductions. Health insurance was being taken on a post-tax basis instead of a pre-tax basis. We worked with an attorney, an accountant. We were able to go back 3 years. So last year we sent out the 2021 restated W-2s for approximately 50 of the employees. The cost of the town was about $50,000 per year. We were able to get that 1 year done. We were working on 2022, so that is what we're working on to get out before the end of February. Right, so that'll be about a $50,000 hit in our contingency account, but it's the right thing to do. We have to do that. We're hoping within the same time frame, February, March, we will get out 2023 as well. 2024 was able to be rectified, so 2022 and 2023 the problem's contained. So there's no problem going forward. We know the situation. We know the individuals involved. So we're going to resolve that situation. But it's going to cost about $100,000. So just want you all to be aware of that. So I don't know what else I forgot, but if I forgot something, I'll shoot everyone an email. So.
Yeah, thanks. I know the loss of the payroll director is a burden on you guys, so I appreciate you guys stepping up, especially this time of year when tax forms are needing to be shared. Any questions or comments for Kevin? Okay. Thanks very much. We're going to move on to item number 6, which is new business, and our first item up is the discussion and possible action of change in our Board of Finance bylaws, and this has been proposed in an email that we all saw from our member Kim. So Kim, over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think the most important change that I would recommend we take action on is the time of the meeting, which is, Kevin, is this, can you help me?
So that's what I wanted to bring up. So
Okay.
This is what I have saved in my files. And so what I think happened, and I'll take the full blame, I think the board voted on changes in December of 2023, and these were the changes. I don't know if this ever got submitted to the town clerk. So I think that's where the lag is here. Because when I went back and looked for them, there's a copy on the website. That's the original ones from 2021, I believe. So I don't know how we want to go about this change.
So I think in our packet from December, the time was 7 p.m.
Yep.
But in this, and this is the most updated version that you put
Correct.
before
I
us
just don't
tonight?
think it was posted to town clerk. So I don't know if you still vote on it and make the change officially, and I get it re-updated at the clerk's office. I think
So
that's probably what we should do.
Just so I understand what you're saying, are you saying that the 7 p.m. designation that came out of the December 2023 bylaws change never was implemented with the town clerk.
Correct, I never scanned it into the record.
So maybe we don't actually have a 7 p.m. requirement in our bylaws?
From what I gathered from the minutes, these changes were voted on, and Rich, you were here, because I remember talking about this, that 7 o'clock versus 5:30. So the board added 3 things, it looks like. They changed that 7 o'clock to 5:30. They added a paragraph in the election of officers about a vacancy, and then they changed the headline from election of officers to / filling of board vacancies. And this, it was nice, it was already highlighted when I opened the document. And then I reviewed, Kim, what I sent you earlier, and noticed these are the few changes. So I still think it would be best practice to get this board to vote on any changes you guys want. I'll scan that in tomorrow, and I'll send you the new copy so we know it actually gets scanned in. Is that, Laura, you were here too, is that what you recall?
I do recall voting on the time change, and I'm assuming we did the other ones at the same time. And I think it would be probably prudent to vote on it.
Or whatever
Okay.
changes you
Right.
guys decide.
Well, I want to do the right thing. I'm just confused right now, to be honest. So it sounds like some changes were made that are at least didn't make it into the town clerk's office.
So the original Board of Finance bylaws you guys had was the one before this. It was the, hold on, I'm just scrolling down, the February 9th, 2022 bylaws, because those are the last ones that have been on file with the town clerk. This file never made it to the town clerk, so I just wanted to send it to you guys so you saw.
And this file does contain the time change.
It does.
Correct. And
And
it changed
so-
2 other changes as well.
Do we know
Right,
what those
that you
other
just
changes?
did.
Yeah, they're in red. Here, let me share my.
These were voted on by the board in December of 2023, just not filed with the clerk.
Correct.
So if they get filed with the clerk, then do we still need to take action tonight?
I mean, I think
I would
since
say
that was a
no.
prior board,
I would, yeah, that's
I would
where
just
I
throw
was
your,
going.
throw your throw your
That-
stamp on it.
Just to CYA, since it's a new board, that we vote on this document, and then that gets submitted to the clerk, and then, to me, that should be fine. But to not vote on it with a different board,
So I have no problem with us voting on it. I am just concerned we haven't had time to adequately review it, unless we want to have an extensive discussion right now about each of the 3 items. Do you want to, maybe Kevin, highlight what those items are, and we can see how the discussion goes?
Did we even say something?
No, let's just see.
So, first change was this in red, filling of board vacancies,
Where are we on? Page?
page 1.
Yeah.
Page there.
Okay.
And because we added this little section here, the reason this was added was for a paragraph on page 2. If a vacancy on a board should occur, the chair will take nominations for candidates to fill a vacancy, all nominations. So this was added.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that item?
So I am curious on the history of why the Finance Committee doesn't have alternates the way other town committees do. Because
Well-
typically, like, if there was a vacancy, then we would pull from the alternate pool. Yes? I think that's the protocol. No?
Is that a charter question or?
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Yeah,
Well-
and
That's true.
the alternate, it's not that there's a vacancy on the board, but if there's an absence on the board,
Yes.
then the alternate fills that absence. We, for some reason, I don't think we've ever failed to have a quorum, especially now with the Zoom link that we can do. I know that the Board of Selectmen does not have alternates either, correct? So I think the
No.
two boards stand unique.
Sometimes I
in that
wish they aspect. did, but that's another story. Yeah, I mean, and you make a good distinction between absences and vacancies.
Right.
And this deals with a vacancy. but that might be, a discussion for another day.
Sure,
Yeah, so to, the absences or vacancies are not, this is covering vacancies, what's on the screen before us right now.
Correct.
And so is there any more discussion on this vacancy item that was added back in '23? Okay, great. Let's move on to the next one then, please, Kevin.
All right. I think the next one's just the timing.
And that is on page 3, Article 7. Just the 5:30 p.m. change that you've highlighted in red on the screen. Is there any discussion on codifying the 5:30 p.m. start? So the value of the 5:30 p.m. start, as we discussed it at our last meeting, is so that if there are members of town departments that would need to be present at this meeting in order to give us some information, it's easier for them to come to a 5:30 meeting because they're just wrapping up their workday, as compared with if we started at a later time, they'd have to go home and come back or something like that. So that's, I think, the value of the 5:30. But at the same time, it also, the 5:30, could be considered negative for people who work in a non-East Lyme job and can't get here by 5:30. So I know that's a balance. I know that for the past couple of years we have been meeting at 5:30, and as I just heard Kevin say, we've never had a problem, or I guess that was you, Rich. Never had a problem with a quorum. So, any other discussion on the 5:30? Are we comfortable with it?
You did bring up a good point, Scott, in regards to non-town employees being able to make that. But there is if you talk about it from the public delegation aspect, you can submit a letter to the board or to the finance department to be read into the record if you're a member of the public and you can't make the meeting, so that your participation would still occur.
Yeah, that's a reasonable mitigation. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on the 5:30 change? Great. And Kevin, you said there was a third one, please.
Those are the three. The headline, the extra paragraph, and then the 5:30.
Got it.
So, no.
Nope.
No, when you're ready, no, I have a suggestion procedurally on how you might approach what you want to do next, when you're ready.
Okay. I just want to, before we get to that suggestion, I want to make sure the board members feel like they've had a chance to digest this, because it's just been shown to you tonight.
That's it.
Okay. Then we will go ahead and I guess we need to entertain a motion to accept these bylaw changes.
So that's where I would like to interject if I could.
Please do.
So
Help me out.
rather than accept the changes, procedurally, I think it would be wise to simply ratify the act of the previous board, so that it doesn't call into question any decisions made in between. So what you're doing is, time-wise, the temporal aspect of this, you're going back in time to when these changes were made. So by simply ratifying what was done before, it doesn't give anyone an opening to say, hey, guess what? You held a meeting at 5:30. It really should have been 7 o'clock. Was that action legitimate? So I think the terminology I would use and the action I would suggest is to ratify, since you're not making any changes at this point, simply ratify what was done before. Then I think that covers you if someone decides to challenge it. Just a suggestion.
That feels like a reasonable suggestion to me. Is there any discussion of Dan's recommendation? Okay, so I'm going to entertain a motion that we ratify what was approved by a previous Board of Finance, it sounds like in December of 2023, with these changes that Kevin has highlighted.
So can I just, there was one other element in my email about the bylaws. So we can move to ratify this and then we can entertain the other change, but there was one other component in my email that I did not yet cover. So however you would like to do it.
I do think we should do it in two parts.
Okay?
So let's go ahead and if there is someone wants to make a formal motion to ratify.
I make a motion to ratify the bylaws of December 13th, 2023.
Second?
Moved and seconded for us to ratify the bylaws from December of 2023 with the changes that we have discussed. Is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor of ratifying the December 2023 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 600, it covers. Kim, you have an additional suggestion now that we have ratified.
Yes. And this one, I'm happy to have someone cross-check me because I am only human and I could have missed it, but I did review the the Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 106. And I did that online, so I'm assuming it's the latest and greatest version of the Connecticut statutes. But in my reading, I could not find the specific responsibility, which is on page 1 of our bylaws, which is arranging for an annual audit of town accounts. I couldn't find it, but if someone knows where that's at,
So you're talking about Article 2, number 5?
yes. Arranging for an annual audit of town accounts. I could not find that in the Connecticut General Statute. I find this article blends the Connecticut General Statutes and the Town of East Lyme Charter Ordinance and Special Laws in the first paragraph, but then it specifically states the general statutes give the board specific responsibilities, and it lists those 6, but I couldn't find arranging for an annual audit of town accounts. That could very well be in the Town of East Lyme's Charter Ordinance and Special Laws. I didn't have the energy to look at that document. I'll admit that.
So you're suggesting that what we have written in our bylaws, Article 2, number 5, is not codified into either existing East Lyme or Connecticut state law that you were able to locate?
Just the general statute. So if you look at that lead paragraph before the 6 items, it says the general statutes give the board specific responsibility for.
Right.
I could not find number 5.
So
You found it.
Quick
Okay.
ChatGPT, my best
Okay.
friend.
Silly me, I read it.
So that was a long document.
392.
So
Okay.
I think it's a different document, but so my old hat I used to wear was an auditor of municipalities. So I know all municipalities have to go through an annual audit, and then towns that are delinquent in their audits, like we are, have to publish or work with the Municipal Finance Advisory Committee at the state of Connecticut. MFAC, it's called, very scary group of people.
Are you sure that's in Chapter 106? Or does it not have to be in Chapter 106?
I don't know if it's in Chapter 106 or if it's a separate chapter. I don't want to click on this link and see where that takes me. Just give me 1 second.
Well, I mean, I think the point is you found what appears to be a statute
Chapter 111.
that allows us to make the statement
It's not
that
Chapter 106.
it is our
That's why I couldn't find
responsibility.
it.
All right. So are you satisfied, Kim, that if Kevin was able to find that statute?
I
that-
think for correctness, you should say Chapter 106 and
111.
111. And then you'd be okay. But it's not in 106.
Or you just eliminate the chapter.
Or you could
Go with
eliminate the
chap-
chapter.
Or okay, what would we prefer?
Okay, so are you proposing to eliminate the phrase "as set forth in Chapter 106," or are you proposing to add a phrase "and 111"?
I think it's safer for us to strike the chapter.
So everyone good with?
So it would the new sentence would read: "The board shall have full authority to act as set forth in the Connecticut general statutes.
Yes.
And we would eliminate the words Chapter 106 of the.
Yes.
We're keeping the.
Chapter 106 of. Thank you, Kevin. All right, is that your proposed amendment?
Beautiful.
Okay. So can someone move that, please?
So
I'll move it.
Oh, okay. Go, Barry.
Okay, it's been moved. Has it been seconded?
Second.
Is there any discussion of removing Chapter 106 of from the second sentence in the second paragraph of Article 2? Okay. All those in favor of removing those three words, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. It passes. We have removed those three words. Kim, was there anything else?
I would just like to nominate myself for Nerd of the Week for doing that.
I'm going to entertain that motion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. You're diligent.
Appreciate that.
I mean,
That might be all you get, but got
Tonight.
it.
All right. Let's move on then to our, I have lost my agenda.
Excuse me, a question.
Of course.
Then this modified bylaw statement that we first had ratified, what will get submitted to the town clerk is this modification of the previous ratified statement.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yes, I just want to confirm
And
that. So
Kevin,
we,
can you just sort of confirm that it will,
So this is how I intend on submitting it. Is this what everyone's mind? Can everyone see this here? Let me zoom in.
ratified
kinda did two
and
things, so I wanna make a
ratified
vote
and
there.
amended on January 14, 2026? That seems correct to me.
Does
Yep.
that work for everybody?
Yep.
Because we
Perfect.
ratified it first,
Yep.
then we made the changes.
Perfect.
So everyone go with that? I'm going to send it right now to town clerk.
Okay.
I think that's right.
Thank you.
Okay. Perfect.
We're a
Great.
good team, all of us, huh?
Yeah.
You got it right.
Great. Thank you for all that, everybody. The last item on our new business agenda is the 5-year budget outlook projection.
Just one quick. Do you have to vote on the whole thing as amended, or just the changes you make to it? I don't know how that works.
They just,
They vote on that change, but do they vote on the whole thing, or just
No,
the changes?
because we ratified the
They ratified
previous
the other-
changes.
Okay.
yeah, and then
Just wanna make sure we cross
So
all
we
the way.
amended it and we voted on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly.
I'll make sure we do this right.
All right, Kevin, do you have slides you're going to show for 5B?
I have an Excel document. Submit this. I'll do that in a second. Okay. I do.
This came out of a discussion that Kevin and I had about how, for us to be better prepared proactively, to have discussions with town departments about what our long-term fiscal health is.
Okay, so there's a lot of numbers here. Let me just try to shrink the screen so everyone can see it. Okay, so that. Oh yeah, I have the handout. So everyone finds the handout with all the crazy numbers on it. That's this front summary screen here. All right, so essentially what I did was I took the last year's budget and then threw some assumptions on top of it, and then tried to project that out for the next 4 years. So we have kind of a 5-year outlook looking into the future. So just a high level, this is just a draft, so Jack, at the day, don't be writing an article on this, it's just a working copy here, buddy. Set of 6, I know he watches these. So what I'm looking to do is, so every year you see the mill rate at the bottom. What's going to happen 4 years from now, right? 5 years from now? What's going to happen in 2030 run to the mill rate based on the current spend of the town? This does take into assumptions you see on line 35 there. There's a slight green bar in the middle of the screen. That's the projected grand list growth. I can share with you. I had a meeting this afternoon with the assessor. She's not ready to submit it yet, or I would have provided you guys with a copy, but the grand list for the upcoming year, with some major developments down Old Black Point, on North Bridebrook, on some other big properties here in town, the mill rate is looking to grow about 1%, which is awesome, because last year it was 0.0008. It barely grew. So she was really excited about that. I I wrote over here, I do not anticipate much grand list growth with the sewer moratorium in place now, right? Because that project was, I think, pre-sewer moratorium, so I don't know really how that plays into it. I just wanted to put that caveat there. And that's why I shrunk the projected grand list growth down to a quarter. And I'm working with the assessor to get more solid numbers here. Just maybe look at a 10-year look back on what we've been doing on that number. So that's subject to change as well. I guess I could say that about the whole spreadsheet. It's all subject to change, right? So
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So when you project out and do this type of a forecast, are you, just because I'm getting educated on all of our collective bargaining unit
Mhm.
agreements, are you going in and for whatever increase is in each collective bargaining unit agreement, for however long the contract is, are you increasing the salaries based on those collective bargaining unit agreements?
So this was just a rough first shot at that, so that's a great point. So you can see kind of middle of the screen here, some of the assumptions I was using. So what I did was at the bottom of our work paper, I broke down the town budget by salaries, personnel benefits. I separated health insurance and personnel benefits because that's going up
Yeah.
exponentially at this point. Pension and retirement, which is also its own line. Other town operations, which is kind of a catch-all. I could say that more of like the, office supplies, things like that. Town contingency I broke out, library, debt service, capital. Over here are kind of the assumptions, and they change yearly. So in 2028, I only budgeted 2.75 for town wages. The year after, you're saying 5.25. The biggest union contract on the town side's UPSU. Every other year, they get a GWI, which is general wage increase of 2.75, and they get a step of about 3%. Or, no, 2.5% maybe? 2.5, because 2.75 plus, it's 2.5%. Every other year. But with the new contract we settled with them at the start of 26, they do not get an increase until 2029.
So we were able to negotiate a 3-year.
2.75 kind of freeze. Board of Ed wages, I just put it in the rough 5% because that's what the teachers union, I believe, was getting over the 3 years. Health insurance, I put that at a conservative 12%. This year it's coming in between 14 to 15%. I'm hoping that number comes down a little bit because that's a frightening number. You multiply 2.6 million by 15% year over year. That gets away from us. Pension, I put 10% just to kind of show an increased cost, which I'm 1.4 million I'm projecting next year. That is pension and retirement, right? So the pension payment's probably going to be about $1 million, $1.1 million. And then we have a $400,000 set aside for the defined contribution folks. All non-affiliated, so all department heads and supervisors aren't in the pension. They're in a defined 401A. The UPSU, the largest contract on the town side for unions, this past negotiation, we were able to, as of July 1, 2025, try to get my dates there, all new employees hired by the town are in a defined contribution, not a defined benefit, right? So that's to help, because the pension is really subject to market changes, how much we have to pay into it. Defined contribution is your base salary times X%, right? So we're able to better budget for that. So one push on the contract negotiation side of things is to move to that defined contribution instead of the defined benefit model. So I only have a few of them built in. I'd like to expand that, town wages between union, non-union. I did send this to Marion Stevens at the Board of Ed. She was just sitting back here a few minutes ago to have her work on her portion, because there is her portion up top here. We haven't touched that yet. Yeah. So on the Board of Ed side, the salaries for the Board of Ed, this is the superintendent's budget from last night, or 2 nights ago, whenever it was, with his 6.79% increase. I used this 6.79, I used the year-over-year increase to project out, because if the percentage is good for this year, it's got to be good for the next couple of years, or some percentage of that. So just looking out, 2031, it's close to a $90 million $90 million budget on the Board of Ed side. How does that, taxpayers, is always the big question. If you have a $500,000 house, valued at $500,000, you're being assessed at $350,000. In 2030, your taxes will be $14,000. So that's why I'm looking to do this to kind of help the town and the boards, kind of benchmark us to something and
I think the value of this exercise is it sort of like level sets us in terms of if we continue on the increases that we've had in the past couple of years, given the assumptions that Kevin built into this model, these are the kinds of costs we can expect to pass on to taxpayers in our town. So I think that this is an important modeling exercise so that we at the Board of Finance can appropriately scrutinize these budget changes as much as possible.
And if anyone at home is an Excel wizard and likes these models, just send me an email. My email's on the town website. I'll forward you a copy of this, just to kind of get multiple sets of eyes. I know there was a citizen that came in today, was asking what does the town do for modeling budgets over long term. I was able to show her this, and I'm going to send her a copy of this so she can kind of look at it and hopefully make some changes and give me another set of eyes on this.
Yeah.
I hate to be the Grim Reaper, but I think the numbers, like our salaries are a third of the budget, right?
So let me go
was
back.
it 13 million out of 33?
Yep. So I did a quick because everyone was saying 80%. So I just said, okay, well, what's the Board of Ed? Salaries is about 60% for the Board of Ed, and then benefits is 18.1. On the town side, I can actually grab this.
I thought when you showed the town, it was like a third, maybe.
Let's see.
13,
Yeah. So I mean, if we're talking,
13 out of 36, 35.
yeah, I wouldn't even say it's that much because I don't ever count debt service. Let me go back here real quick. Sorry, Betsy. So town operations, we break out the debt service and the cash capital from that.
Okay.
So town operations, 25 million. So when you're talking that $13 million number, it's half of the town side. Yeah. So it's the biggest driver.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Kevin on this model? Again, thank you for doing this. I think this is something that periodically we should sort of rediscuss here, just so we keep apprised of what the path we're headed down if we don't make changes.
So I'll keep, if you're good with it, I'll keep the 5-year projection and new business next month. And as I update it, I'll send it to the board. As Mariana at the Board of Ed side updates hers, and just continue the conversation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. All right, and as our next item on the agenda is old business, appointments of the citizen representative to the Capital Improvement Program Committee. Earlier tonight, member of the public, Ann Santoro, made a recommendation that we nominate Olivia, and forgive me, I've forgotten Olivia's last name. Fairchild. Thank you, Olivia Fairchild. So I would entertain a motion that we appoint Olivia Fairchild as our citizen representative to the Capital Improvement Program Committee. Remember, we already have Lauren and Barry as our Board of Finance members. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion of this citizen appointment? It's moved.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rich.
Okay. I appreciate your nomination, Anne, of Olivia, and I've seen Olivia on the Board of Ed. It's curious to me the way that the CIP composition has been taking place this year, that from the Board of Ed side, I don't know that they truly have a member of the public as one of their representatives, and I don't know that the Board of Selectmen sort of has a member of the public, but he's also an employee of the town. I don't know that there's any disqualifications for employees of the town being the member of the public. And that seemed to have been a very important factor for transparency in our capital improvement. And so I welcome having a member of the public. I hope that the Board of Ed does indeed have a member of the public. And I appreciate the member that the Board of Selectmen nominated. I know he's a man of high integrity, but I would have liked to have seen somebody else from the general public in town. So that's my comment.
Thanks for that comment. I believe that community members who are appointed by the individual boards are indeed allowed to come from the board, even though it's not classically, strictly speaking, a citizen member. But I take your point, Rich. It sounds like if we accept this particular nomination, we are doing exactly what you have just asked for.
Right. And as far as I recall, our members of the CIP are Lauren and Barry.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay.
Is there any further discussion of this nomination?
After the nomination, there's just one item that came up from this that I would talk about in terms of the CIP, but I'm going to come in after do the nomination.
Okay, well, we're in discussion for it now.
Okay. Just, this is my observation at our last CIP meeting, is that it's interesting that there are members of town agencies who are voting on the CIP who are basically voting for their own allocations. So there's a potential conflict of interest there, say for the, I was just like the members of the Board of Education are on the CIP, but members of the fire department or the police are not. So we have the Board of Education voting on CIP, and they're voting basically for their own budget. But we don't have other town agencies voting for their budget. So either we have non-voting members or we have members recuse themselves when their particular budget items come up on the CIP.
Yeah, I think that's
It's an interesting...
It's an interesting point, and I don't know about how the CIP allocations got made by the Board of Selectmen, but maybe, Dan, is that something you can address tonight, or?
So we tried to come up with a process and a system that would draw insight and talent from various boards, and also with the component of the public at large. And I think what we have accomplished is a fair composition. There will always be, concerns over self-interest or interest in advocating for the group that you belong to, the board that you belong to. But again, it's there are a number of members, and I don't think any one or two can sway the entire vote. So I really feel that the process we have reflects a good composite of both boards and citizens.
Okay, thanks. Sounds like if there is to be changes in the composition, that's something that you...
We could talk about a different day.
Could address at some point in the future.
Yeah, as we improve the process. And, yeah.
Great. Is there any other discussion of this nomination of Olivia Fairchild? Go ahead,
Yes,
Rich.
I'd like to follow on Barry's comments. I think for non-public members of the CIP, if their budgets are impacted by their decisions, then they should be recusing themselves from voting. And it's not just the Board of Ed. So.
I mean, I'm assuming there is a charter for how the CIP functions, and that you're making a recommendation for a charter that we don't control here at Board of Finance, but I think it's a reasonable suggestion that you could make as a citizen to the CIP, and they can decide for themselves if they would
Okay.
like to do that recusal process.
Okay. Just following on Barry's comments.
No, I think it's reasonable comments, everybody, thank you. Any other discussion on this nomination? All those in favor of appointing Olivia Fairchild as our citizen representative from Board of Finance to CIP, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
So it's 5-0-1, Kevin? And the motion passes. Olivia, congratulations. Sorry I didn't remember your last name.
Olivia,
Are you
there's a
Olivia?
nice book for you.
Okay.
You're the award winner, the binder winner.
Yeah, of course. We're not so formal. All right. Thank you
If I
for
could do it back.
thank you for being here. Any public discussion? Any board comments?
I have a
Go ahead,
very
Barry.
quick comment.
Go ahead.
Let me just pass this. I wrote this up, so I'm just going to pass this out.
You're giving us stuff to read.
Yeah.
More stuff.
We got more stuff to read.
Sounds that's not going to be a problem for you, though, Kim.
I'll give it my thorough nerd review.
Thank you. You're passing out
The,
the East Lyme annual report from 24-25.
I know, just, yeah, this will come as, this is background material. Been thinking a lot about the budget and the experience on the CIP, and years and years of frustration working with budgets that just come through as line item function object codes without really giving you an understanding of what's coming out of the budget. I've looked at other town budgets, I've gone online to review them, to see the very different formats. I think there's a possibility that we could look at our own budget process and perhaps consider ways to improve it so that information is better communicated to the town and taxpayers in terms of what they're getting. So very briefly listed out here, I would think that my thoughts are that if we revised our town budget process to have 4 parts. Part 1, just basically listing operating fixed costs, kind of get that down and set that up. Part 2 would be any new expenses, that any new increases, there would be a statement of the return on investment or specific outcomes. That if we're going to get some more, we're going to improve an expense, this is what would be returned of value to the town, for that increase in the budget. The third part would be an overall investment on return for the agency's budget, and that's why I handed out this annual report from the library. I looked through all the other town agencies. This report from the library is really outstanding in terms of, you look at this and you say, we've given this much money to the library, here's all this stuff that came to it, and particularly like on the last page, there's a statement on page 23 that for every tax dollar the public library receives, they put approximately $3 back into the community in terms of benefits. So this is a good type of item. The senior center does the same thing. So what I'm saying there on number 3 is that when we get budget requests, that the budgeting town agency be able to present us with some type of overall statement that says, or indications of, as a result of giving us this money, here's what the taxpayers are getting back for it. And then the fourth part that I've seen on other town budgets is setting a guideline that says that this year we're going to start to move out with the budget process that is going to have this figure as our target goal. And I've gone through other town budgets and looked at outcome, increases due to inflation, increases due to salaries and benefits, and if you put it all together, a figure of like a 5.2% increase is something that could be a starting point. We could come up with another number, and my point is that if we could come up with a starting point to just say that as a Board of Finance, we're going to go after the town budget to say that, we're going to begin with the idea that we're kind of shooting for a 5.2% figure for the return for our town budget this year. and that's what we're starting at. So these are 4 ideas. I don't think that it's too late to discuss them right now. Whether I think the board, you can just basically say, hogwash, we don't want to take these up. Put them on next month as next meeting as new business, or send them off to a subcommittee to be considered. I mean, whatever you want to do. These are just my personal comments that I wanted to kind of get in the hopper for consideration.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess I would sort of ask Kevin your opinion. I mean, I think that the suggestion Barry's making that we understand return on investment is not unreasonable. We're kind of midway through the budgeting process already, because I know that many of the town functions have submitted their documents. Is Barry's suggestion feasible on a timeline that will work for this year, or is this something we need to defer to next year?
I think it's reasonable. So I'll start with saying I think it's reasonable with a caveat. Let me just pull up real quick the caveat. Or maybe not caveat's the right word, but let me just, so on like the expenditure side of things, what I can do, the one hang up is, I already, can you swap? Perfect, thank you. It's in yellow because it hasn't been reviewed yet. So similar as how the budget was broken down on that 5-year projection, salaries, personnel benefits, things like that, I could do another breakdown farther, go department by department and say, okay, what's fixed costs and what are the variable costs and the new costs of those, and just create a second section or a third section down here, because I already break it out by function. So really, it would just be by department. Excuse me, Barry, maybe I just work with you on certain things, because the variable costs versus the fixed costs for some departments, like, I know like software, obviously that's fixed cost. What do you consider like office supplies? Is that variable or fixed? So just really like an expectation of what the board's thoughts are. But I don't think it's unreasonable. I mean, there's 500 accounts here, everything's listed. I can just go account by account, and this is a variable cost, that's a fixed cost. Right?
So
I
maybe,
don't think it's unreasonable.
I know it's late, and we've been through a lot of information tonight. So maybe I'll suggest that there'll be an offline discussion between you and Barry, where he can make his suggestions, and you can determine the feasibility of doing this for this season's budget. I guess my naive interpretation of all that, there's some subjectivity here, because return on investment is in the eye of the beholder, right? What are we really getting back? This department is going to be a very different thought versus the next department, and so on. And so there's going to be some assumptions that are going to need to be made, and it feels like this is not a simple, click of the mouse.
I think you have to define
What those return on investments are, and whether or not we agree that that's a reasonable return on investment for the library department versus the fire department versus the other department. So I'll let you guys sort of have this discussion and maybe come back to us at the next meeting. And we'll put this on old business for the next meeting, I guess. And I'd like to have a longer discussion about. I think conceptually the value's there. It's the devil's going to be in the details. All right, thank you for that, Barry. I appreciate the thoughtfulness you brought to it. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Barry gets Nerd of the Week nomination after that.
Well, okay. It's not a competition, people. It's okay if you don't win, by the way. I'm going to not win.
There could be co-champions even.
All right. So someone want to make a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned.